town of the good, the bad, and the weird. You either live by the gun, or you die by the sword.
High and Ed sitting on a tree. Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes raising Arizona in a baby carriage.
Adorable.
I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
Welcome to the Good, the Bad, the Weird podcast. If you haven't guessed it, we are doing for our final deep dive for Nic Cage November, Raising Arizona.
Yes, a 1987 crime comedy film starring Nic Cage.
Yes. So, for those unfamiliar, Raising Arizona follows an ex-career criminal and his ex-cop wife who decide to kidnap one of the Arizona quintuplets after finding themselves barren.
I do like that you call him ex-career criminal. The man was caught multiple times stealing from gas stations.
Yeah, that's what we call down here a career criminal.
I think it's only career criminal because he didn't have another job.
No. Yeah, no, it's definitely one that I had heard talked about by many people for quite a while before I actually decided to sit down and watch it.
Sure.
One, I didn't realize it was a Coen Brothers film.
It is. It very much is.
Something I was very curious about after we decided to choose this one, how you would feel about this, knowing your history with your husband in Coen Brothers films.
Yeah, this is definitely more along his line of taste, but it's much like the rest of their repertoire. It's not a bad film. It's just not my type of film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an inside joke. Chris's husband is obsessed with "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" and for like probably 2 good years, every single time we'd sit down for a movie night, let's do "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Yes. He does still love that movie, despite not enjoying classical literature.
Yeah, which I find kind of funny, but
a little baffling, I agree. But in the same styling, this is definitely in a similar styling. It's like, I mean, it's Coen Brothers. They directed it, they produced it, they wrote it. It has all of their flares, and I do wonder if part of the reason it reads so Coen Brothers heavy and not Cage heavy is because this is a much earlier Cage than like now Cage.
Yeah.
Who has like had time to do his own writing and directing.
And I will say, I personally am not that familiar with the Coen Brothers. I at one point thought I was, and then I realized that they've been doing stuff since the 80s, and I've only seen like 3 of their films, so...
Yes. I think a big hallmark is, like, a very big, like, standard stamp that I see, and I definitely see it in Raising Arizona, is even if the film isn't directly based or a reworking of a classical piece, they try very hard to pull classical stylings and literature into their works, and they managed to do it even in this stupid piece, so...
Yeah. So, also, if you haven't guessed it by now, Raising Arizona is written and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen of Coen Brothers fame.
Of course.
It stars Nic Cage, Holly Hunter, and Trey Wilson.
Yep.
And again, like I said, something I wasn't aware of. This is the Coen Brothers' second film.
Yes.
Of their 18 films together. And I still haven't seen their first film, Blood Simple, which this came a few years after. I'm
definitely more familiar with their later works, like No Country for Old Men, the newer True Grit, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Thanks to my husband. But it is interesting where, like, a lot of writers and directors, it's very easy to see, like, a huge transition in, like, quality and writing from, like, very early works to their much later works. I do think they're fairly consistent, and maybe that's because they're a duo and they have room to bounce off of each other. But the consistency has been kind of impressive so far in watching their stuff.
Yeah, and one thing that I didn't realize as well, I guess the Coen Brothers are a bit secretive about their movies. They're a little bit on the quiet side of discussing any meaning or any or anything from it, which I appreciate coming especially from like loving Pan's Labyrinth and Del Toro's thoughts on that. It's a movie about what you take from it, not a not a movie that has like a moral meaning to it. It's just a story, basically.
Sure, and I do think that it is nice to an extent for movies. I do wish that there was a little more, though, from them. A lot of their stuff does, like I said, has inspiration in either classic film history or in classical literature. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Is by far their most well-known example of that. It's just a retelling of the Odyssey. but they never really, like, go full in and explain, like, why they decide to do this. I mean, it's cool, it's interesting, and, like, there are, like, little bits, little nods, even in Raising Arizona, a very early work from them, where you can tell that inspiration is there. Some of the naming of the characters could very easily be pulled from some classical pieces. There's some themes, there's some repeating elements that definitely are seen throughout their works. But they're so quiet and so hushed up on everything that there's literally no content to this DVD.
No, not at all. And so my sources for today actually include some literary sources from the Internet Archive. Invasion of the Baby Snatchers by David Edelston. Interview with Joel and Ethan Coen by Michelle Kimmett and Hubert Neugret. The Brothers Grimm, the films of Ethan and Joel Coen by Erica Rowell. And Joel and Ethan Coen, edited by Peter Court. And Greg Cieslen, translated by Rory Mulholland.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
And even then, even with all these sources, there's not a whole lot that the Coen brothers go through, because...
No, like, listening to their interviews, it's a little bit like listening to someone trying to extract teeth.
Yeah.
Like, they answer the questions, but in a very dry and straightforward way, to the point where you're like, yes, elaborate.
Yeah.
Please, tell me more.
Which they don't,
no,
obviously.
They really don't, and I mean, to an extent, good for them on keeping at least their styling consistent, and, like, their methods are definitely working. But boy, it does make research difficult.
Yes. But they did state that the goal of Raising Arizona, as stated by the Coen brothers, they wanted to create something as different from Blood Simple as possible. Galloping instead of languorous, sunny instead of lurid, genial and upbeat instead of murderous and cynical.
Mm-hmm.
And Ethan also stated that they didn't dive into a genre, they just wanted to broadly make a comedy with two main characters and be a focus on the characters themselves rather than the plot of the movie.
The only real character that they did pre-work for was H.I. or High's character. Mm-hmm. They knew they wanted him to be created out of a mix of a few accents and a man who read almost exclusively magazines and the Bible. And they also wanted all of their characters to be very simple characters to explain a more complex plot.
Yeah.
And then the character, the second character, Ed, was created specifically for the actress Holly to match High's character. So, not a typical writing stance. They got done really fast, too. Like,
yeah.
They wrote this in, like, 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a goal and you know what you're working towards,
they put a deadline and they met it.
Yeah. But in regards to our beloved Nic Cage, because that is the focus of this movie and not the Coen brothers for us.
It is.
This is his 10th role and really his first, what I'll call his first oddball movie. Mm-hmm. But I will say, while up front, the movie is quirky, Cage has yet to fully go like viewers would have expected him to see in Vampire's Kiss.
Yes.
He's still very much a more down-to-earth character. He doesn't go caged, to say.
Yeah, we don't get full Cage, which is kind of just surprising, because if any scenario could have been set up for a full Cage meltdown, this is it. I do think part of that is working with the Coen brothers. A lot of the side actresses, and even Cage himself, were quoted as saying that Cage and the Coen brothers, while they worked respectfully together, they did not work well together. They had a lot of very opposing thoughts and ideas. Both were seen as very artistic and visionary, with strong opinions that made it hard to balance, which makes sense. Also, again, like, this is a younger Cage. It is not a Cage who has been directing and writing and producing and really, like, is firm in his ways and his methods yet. He's still, like, he knows the styling is Cage, but it is hard yet to, like, see him push a film in a direction.
Yeah, and I think that's just partly because, from my readings, the Coen brothers have had this... They're very set. They have everything storyboarded. They know exactly how they want it to play out. And so there's not a lot of ad-libbing. And so that doesn't allow Cage to become what he became in Vampire's Kiss, where he and the director were just feeding off of each other that whole time of like, what if we did this? Okay, cool. What if we did that?
And it's not just Cage that had this same interaction with them. Goodman, who's also in this film, and also known for enjoying playing characters who are on big emotions at all times. He also is quoted as saying, like, we worked well and respectfully together, but it is difficult to work together, and I can understand why people don't come back and rework with them.
Yeah. Despite having reworked with many people before.
Yes. I do think part of it is just a style of how you like to work, and it's very obvious that Cage thrives when he gets a feedback loop.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, before we dive into it, Chris, what are we drinking today?
To really savor and create a taste of this movie, we have original Budweiser in a can.
Budweiser.
Not even Bud Light.
No. Nope. Straight on Budweiser.
I haven't had one of these in a hot minute, not gonna lie.
Same.
Cheers. It tastes different when you're inside and air conditioned.
It is very college reminiscent.
Oh, it feels like floating on the river in 102 degrees with a sunburn.
Never done that.
It's an experience. I don't know if it's for everyone.
Yeah. So, Raising Arizona. Immediately, we are introduced to Hi McDonough. It is
oh boy,
immediate love at first sight with Officer Edwina, also known as Ed.
I love Edwina/Ed. She is fantastically put in place for this, like, budding romance. It does not, despite this being a very fast, like, introduction to characters, it doesn't feel like a rushed romance. It very much does feel like a, like, young, stupid love sort of thing.
Yeah.
Hi, despite being a ridiculous man, is still a believable character. Like, he's got the crazy ass hair, but he has just been arrested.
Yeah.
We also do learn later, though, that that's just what he looks like.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny that, like, we're immediately introduced to what's, like, the movie from the get-go is quirky and charming.
It is.
But Cage himself is, or Hi, as he's called the rest of the movie, is very... We don't ever learn his initials. It's just Hi.
Just Hi.
Yeah. I didn't think to look at his placard.
Yeah, Ed calls him Hi, and his buddies in jail call him H.I. So we know it's initials, but I don't know if anyone knows what Hi's initials mean.
Yeah, no, even on his placard, it's still Hi.
And I kind of like that, because it does feel like a bad, stupid name that is very reminiscent of the sort of caricature that this movie is trying to create.
Yeah.
Like, I've known many a person who, through no fault of their own and their parents' own bad decisions, have gone by either initials or nicknames for their whole life, to the point where, like, no one legitimately knows what their real name is.
Yeah.
Like, even on, apparently, his arrest record, it's just Hi.
I mean, I've gone by a nickname my whole life, so it's...
Yeah.
It's weird when I get my first name fully told to me.
Yeah, and yours isn't even that far of a stretch. And
No.
I do love also that Hi's not the only one with a goofy name. Ed also has a surprise name. It's not necessarily a goofy name, and none of the characters act like it's a surprise name.
No.
But, like, it's clearly meant to, like, put Hi at a normal playing field. He's not the goofy one. Literally everyone is goofy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, kind of.
He's a little bit extra goofy, but, like, this whole world is made out of crazy people.
There's one character I will say isn't goofy. Mrs. Arizona. She's just boring.
She is boring, but she is boring in a very silly way.
Comedic play on the American Gothic.
Yes,
yeah.
Very.
But one thing about this opening scene is the way the Coen brothers edit their interaction is it's constantly, and continue to edit their interaction, is there's constantly close-ups of them the entire run of this movie, or at least the beginning, where it's showing them getting closer and closer, and there's something from the start.
There is. Even though he's only got like 5 sentences to say to her. Yeah. There's a click.
And we go to jail for the first time, which we get some kind of dumb and odd dialogue from the therapist.
I do enjoy the, like, forced therapy.
Yeah, it feels right. It
feels right, and it also feels like no one in the therapy ring is taking it seriously either. And it feels very like bad camp counselor, which all works with how this world is created.
Yeah. It's fun. But, I mean, we do kind of get introduced to John Goodman's character and his buddy. Yeah, his brother. Yeah. Gale and Glenn, I think is their... Yeah, Gale and Glenn.
Yep.
But immediately from there, we're back out of jail where he's like, yeah, I'm going to turn my way around. But he brings up, and I don't know this, I was meant to look it up, but I don't know why it was hard to stay straight during the Reagan era. I don't know enough about American politics or history of that time frame.
So, as far as I can tell, again, not digging terribly deep into it, and I also don't think you're meant to dig deep into it. I believe that this is the 80s version or early 90s version of Thanks Obama.
Oh. Okay.
Where you could, if you drew enough lines, make it back to Reagan. But this is all High's fault.
Yeah, I mean, it is from the get-go. Because, like, the scene where we pull up to the convenience store, it's the same convenience store.
It's literally the same convenience store he keeps robbing over and over again.
No, that's why he's getting arrested, is he's doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
Rinse, wash, rinse, and repeat. It's what that phrase of do a thing a couple times and get hurt. Or doing the same thing 1,000 times expecting a different result is madness. That expression. Yes.
Except somehow in High's wonderful world, he does get a slightly different result, even though he does keep robbing the exact same store over and over again.
Well, and it's not even prison that's reforming him, because he goes right back to booking, but also back to Ed, where we get a goodbye of the fiance. Ed's all crying, she's not having a good time, and hello, hi.
Yeah, it's fantastically done, and honestly, Cage's over-the-topness feels normal now.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, the way he goes about it is we know that they're supposed to be star-crossed lovers at this point.
Yeah.
And Ed is clearly smitten with him now.
Yes.
But the way Ed talks, it feels like he talks that way to any pretty little thing that walks by.
It does. But at the same time, I would 100% believe that High has told himself, and probably Ed, that he only has eyes for Ed.
Yeah.
Because she is now the current prettiest little thing.
Yeah. Or it's the one that he keeps running into the most because of...
Yes.
Or maybe his reason for going to jail is to constantly run into Ed.
Yes. And here is something that I would like to put on from the beginning that I really, really like about this as a kind of a romance comedy in a way, is that despite the fact that High very well could have been a no-good, dirty, rotten person of a man, and this movie would have been the same.
Yeah.
Instead, they wrote him as a stupid good man, who truly does, even if at the beginning he would have given that line to anybody, truly does love Ed. And I think that makes this movie so much more charming.
Yeah.
Because from the minute that he says, "You're no good, dirty, rotten fiance, I'll fight him."
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, the second he's, like, talking shit about some fiance that he's never met, barely knew existed half a second ago, that is the moment where, for High, he never came back.
This feels very much like The Boy in Blue a bit.
It does feel a little bit like it, but in
better.
No, it definitely a better way, and I think part of that is because at this point in Cage's career, he's gotten the facial expressions down, and despite Cage's even just baseline facial expressions being a little over the top, they work in this character, because High is over the top. His hair is everywhere, his outfits are silly, but not too silly. He's not, he's not Green Mask level silly.
Yeah.
He's just a normal, weird man.
No, exactly.
In a normal, weird world, and so it all works to... Instead of feeling over the top, it just feels theatrical.
Yeah, he's one of those small town characters.
He is.
As many of the characters in this
whole
movie
is. This whole movie could have been set in a small town, and instead they went with the middle of nowhere.
Nope, exactly. Now we're on to more therapy, where we get Gail's character. We get a little bit from him that pays off a little bit, where he's brings up putting work before family. Something that kind of defines him as a character throughout. Yeah,
it does. But it is very subtle.
Yeah. Well, and in a way turning it around on the whole workaholic kind of idea. But also just the way they make prison out to be this just kind of chill, mundane place where everyone's just like, okay, cool, whatever, we're all in here together. Feels like they've known each other for years at this point. Or they have. But.
Yeah, because at one point he even says, like, it felt like a homecoming in a sense. All these familiar faces.
Yep. And, I mean, this time he says he'll really change, but shortly he's back to his old ways, and he... I like this bit, too, because instead of having, like, your traditional boy meets girls, there's a big romance, this feels on the same level of, like, a serial killer romance, where, like, they've known each other maybe, like, a couple months. This is their third interaction in this entire movie, as far as we know.
Yes, as far as we know.
And he's already proposing to her with a promise ring, and...
But at the same time, you knew silly people like this in high school who just never quite grew out of the phase. And you know what? They work together, so why not?
Yeah, I know a specific family friend who was like this.
If it works, you know?
Yeah, definitely mellowed out since getting married and having a kid, which is kind of a good thing. But he still does his thing. But also, I like there's a little bit in this where he's talking about it'll be a brighter future, and then the bulb flashes. Kind of funny. That's what I like about this movie from the get-go, is that the comedy isn't like your traditional American, ha ha ha, I'm laughing out loud, belly aching funny. It's just nice and kind of subtle.
And I think part of the reason why it feels that way is instead of having what we normally see in American-style comedy of really big highs and really big lows, where you're kind of on this, like, big roller coaster of emotions between turmoil for the characters and then also, like, some slapstick over-the-top silly, this movie almost has the same pace for the whole film, and it has almost the same highs and lows for the whole film.
No.
It's a really even keel the whole way through. But part of the reason why it works is because it feels like a very well-paced written work as opposed to just a, like, comedy movie written for movie's sake. This feels very purposeful and intentful with every single interaction the characters have. All of the shots and scenes feel very purposeful, and because everything feels purposeful, you don't really miss having any action.
Yeah.
Despite there being, like, supposed action. Again, though, all the pacing's the same, so it doesn't have any big jumps, any big parts.
Or lulls, really.
Yes, and there's definitely no lulls.
Yeah, it's just a non-stop movie.
A grind, almost.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, but I think that also just goes to how fine-tuned the Coen Brothers made this movie from the get-go and the vision they had in place.
Exactly.
It makes me think of, like I brought up in one of our previous episodes, the South Park method, where
it does.
Everything happens because of a reason. It's not just, well, this happens, then this happens. Well, this happens because this happens.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It definitely follows that theory very well. And then the other thing that works very well is much like a lot of, like, 80s cartoons where the pacing is all the same throughout the whole thing. This movie feels like a Looney Tunes for adults.
Yeah.
Where it is maybe a little less hectic, but it is the constant, quick, speed-walking pace for the whole film.
Yeah. No, pretty much. Because immediately from this, I mean, he's ready to change his ways. He's got someone on the outside waiting for him. He's ready to start his new life because now he and Ed are married, and he has a job in a starter home, all in 7 minutes.
Good for you, and amazing.
Yeah, which, I mean, for the length of this movie, it's only like an hour and a half. You gotta move fast.
And also, I do appreciate, too, that the slight realism that happens here, because when they leave, when they finally do show Ed and High's new home that he is, like, changing his life for, like, I do think that High is a genuine character, despite having his flaws. I do think that in his mind, he is going to turn it around for Ed and all that sort of jazz. He has a beautiful young wife, Ed, and he has a new home, an Airstream in the middle of the desert.
I mean, hey, some people's dreams are different.
Well, that Airstream is now worth a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think part of what drives this is this early romance really sets up how much he's willing to make her happy, doing whatever to make her happy, because that's immediately what it gets into. He
is, in the most trailer parky sense, a romantic.
Oh, yeah. Because, as he finds out, life on the outside is a lot of the same. You're doing the grind, you get a meager paycheck for what you do.
And it seems kind of like he enjoys it?
Yeah, just a bit. But the only reason he enjoys it, as he does explain, is he does it so he can go back and see Ed smiling.
And honestly, who doesn't clock in and clock out to see something happy? Whether it's yourself, your cats, or your husband, or Ed, your beautiful ex-cop wife.
She's still a cop at this point.
Oh, that's right. She has not quit yet.
Yeah. Mine's to fuel my movie buying.
There you go.
But also, I do have a question, because there's a couple things that come up in this movie that are a bit odd and make me wonder how much of this movie is real.
Okay.
So, the one dude he's talking to at his work, his work
bud.
Yeah, his work buddy. Is the dude talking about UFOs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it brings up a handful of other questions a little later on, too.
Remember, this is the desert of Arizona, and these people are meant to be caricatures of the lower income 80s people. Okay. So, like, we're looking King of the Hill level here. Maybe even lower.
Kidding me? They live in a fine-ass house in King of the Hill.
They do. That's why I'm saying Arizona people, like, in this movie, we're aiming below the King of the Hill is glad he now lives in the suburbia. But there's the same type of caricature where it's like a little over the top, but at the same time,
we know people like this.
You are the people like this.
Yeah.
Don't say we know. You are the people at work who, when I meet other people and they're like, hey, do you know Nico? And I'm like, I do know Nico. And they're like, you got some crazy theories, man. Really into movies. And I'm like, yeah, you haven't heard the half of it.
Yeah, I'm glad I got that reputation a little bit, though.
Yeah. There is someone like that in every work, and it's never it's not always a bad thing. It's just that's the water cooler guy, and he happens to be into aliens.
Yeah, it's whether you go full Alex Jones with it or not.
Yeah, this man would have listened to Alex Jones if it was an option.
Yeah. But now, because everything's moving at breakneck speed, they are trying for kiddos.
Which, okay, I appreciate how you say they're moving at breakneck speed. First off, this movie hasn't changed pace at all.
No.
And for this sort of family, I would argue that they are going slowly. They have a home. They got married first. Ed and they both have jobs.
Yeah.
Ed is really, even though I know this movie is very focused around High, and you hear his inner monologue, you see his dreams, and Ed is very much a second character. I do think, though, that everything that happens in this movie is Ed's dream life.
Why Ed's dream life?
Because Ed makes it clear multiple times that the thing she wants most in life is to be a home mama. She wants to be a home. She wants to have a house. She gets the house. Even though at first it's a trailer, they upgrade. She wants a kid. Eventually, in this movie, they end up with a kid. It's just not the way that it was originally destined to be.
Well,
she wanted to get married. She was engaged from the beginning. Like, that was a goal for Ed, was to be married.
Yeah.
And then she found what, in her mind, a man willing to change for her. That is romance.
But does he change for her, really, though?
I'm going to argue that by the end of this movie, yes.
Or does she change for him?
I'm going to say no. I'm saying by the end of this, High does change for Ed. But it takes the whole goddamn movie to get to it.
Okay. Yeah, because Ed really does. I see exactly where you're going with this, because Ed, for the most part, while he does try changing, is the same person.
Yes.
Through and through. But at the same time, like, his dream is
High's dream is to make Ed happy.
That's an interesting thought, that this is Ed's dream.
It is Ed's dream. High's dream was maybe at best to get with Ed. But honestly, he seemed pretty happy in jail, so he decided he was going to get a real job and all that for Ed. This whole movie is for Ed.
Yeah, what you'll do for love.
What you will do for love is this movie in a nutshell, man.
Yeah. But, I mean, the reason we're going in this direction is it's to kind of follow along the lines, at least in this first part, too. Oh, they're following the American dream. They got married. They're working a hard job. They're going to start a family.
Ed's dream is the American dream. She's been sold it hard, and that's what she wants.
Mm-hmm. Whereas High is a career criminal.
Robbing the exact same candy store every time.
Hey, it's a career. If you're that one guy, it's like...
Robbing the gas station, they see him every week.
Hi, Ed. I see you have different color pantyhose this time. I see you're trying nylon.
Yeah, very nice, man. Good job.
Yeah, but all that's dashed because they are barren.
Oh, wah.
I mean, it's the baby crazy phase, and now it's down. Now they're down and out in life because now the honeymoon phase has petered out and it's just the two of them having to deal with each other.
It is, and I also think that something that the movie shows, but again, because this movie is all from High's perspective, and High, while being not the stupidest man in this movie, that right is reserved for other characters.
Yeah.
He is also, and he is caring and loving. He is not the most perceptive, and it is very clear that the movie shows Ed having just an absolute emotional wreck. Like, this was her big thing in life. Like, she wanted to be a mom, and that has been stripped from her. And poor High does not really understand, but he's trying his best.
Yeah. So if the movie's from High's perspective, how is it Ed's dream?
It was Ed's dream to have a baby.
Oh, dream to have a baby. Okay, I was thinking like you were saying that the movie was Ed's dream.
No.
Okay.
It is Ed's dream to have a baby, to be a stay-at-home mama. And that dream has been crushed, and you can see her just sitting there in depression.
Yeah.
And poor Hyde, he doesn't understand, but he's trying to be supportive.
Yeah, he's trying his best. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to make her happy outside of what she wanted. And
I do like that this movie's placement in time and location is smart, because when this movie time-wise is released, and also where it is and who the people in this movie are, it makes it very easy to not have the, like, cell phone in a horror movie problem, where, like, what ifs and, like, why not this and that? There is no ifs or that because of who these people are, where they live, and at what time in the 80s we believe they live.
Okay.
Which helps a lot, because otherwise, if this movie was set, like, much more recently, the directors and writers, and these guys are very thorough, like, there's not a lot of plot holes or problems that they don't try and solve themselves. Oh. They would have had to go through all of the rabbit holes of, like, explaining why they don't try X, Y, and Z.
Well, I think that's what makes this movie works the way it does, is because it's a simple story. They don't try. I think that's what's great about at least the Coen Brothers movies I've seen, is that they, for the most part, are relatively straightforward and simple stories. There's no real, oh no, it was Mr. Mustard behind the fireplace with the iron poker.
And there's not characters who are complicated, which normally is kind of boring, but because these characters are very simple, their motives are not in question. Yeah. Which makes it much easier for them as writers to say, like, oh, well, their next and only option is to try for adoption. And they show that, which is really smart and clever writing.
Yeah, in a way, it reminds me of the silent video game protagonist, where it's meant for you to project yourself upon that individual.
I think it does work to an extent. I don't think that they go so far as to let you fill in, but they do make these people so simple, like, character-wise enough that, like, even if the people in real life are more complicated than this, which they probably are, they're real people, you at least have a baseline knowledge of, like, okay, well, that's realistic enough.
Yeah, and you can relate enough with their qualms and their failed dreams.
And you don't feel like, oh, because this character could be more complex, it doesn't feel real. Like, because Ed is she has a simple goal in life, and now it's been taken from her, it makes sense. Because High is a simple man, you're not questioning, like, what his motive is.
It's why Dingy and Chainsaw Man works, is because all that man wants to do is eat good food and touch tits.
Honestly, yes, it is why Chainsaw Man, the show, works.
Yeah, it's every man's dream. He's the every teenage boy.
Yes, and that is why the batshit craziness of the rest of the world makes sense. And I would argue that it's similar. This movie's batshit crazy in the fact that, like, the certain instances around what happens is very silly, but, like, it works because everyone's a little silly. Everyone is simple.
I like that you brought up batshit crazy, because Chainsaw Man kills a bat demon to touch tits.
Well, as one does.
But now back to Raising Arizona, we get news of the Arizona Quintet, or Quints as they're called.
Yes.
Which I think the writing in this part is, I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or if it's just not humor that I get. I just find it kind of odd where it's like, you know who he is, and proceeds to have to explain who he is. I know it's supposed to be comedic, but I don't think it lands as well for me.
I think it's less of trying to be comedic and more of building the caricature of Mr. Arizona, as he is that guy on the commercials in the early 90s where, like, he's standing in a green screen by himself. He is the writer, producer, director, and editor of this commercial, and it's bad, and you can tell.
Yeah.
But because he owns the only furniture store, he's also the richest man in town.
Not even a furniture, unpainted wood furniture.
Yes, which is even sillier. It's like the level of silliness. And, like, also the movie makes no attempt to hide the fact that this is also, like, he is ripping someone off somewhere. They don't tell you because it's not part of the story. But this man is living in a mansion in the middle of the desert off of unpainted furniture sales.
You know, I mean, depends on the community you live in. If it's not finished, you can sell it cheaper. And then on top of that, you can make it a DIY family project. We're going to paint our rocker today, children.
Now you're thinking like Mr. Arizona himself.
Exactly. Businessman right there.
He is a businessman through and through.
Yeah. And we finally get the title cards 11 minutes into the movie.
It is so far into the movie that I legit thought there wasn't going to be a title card, and I was okay with that.
Yeah. But I like where they put it because it's exactly when the movie really does pick up. We've gotten all the background characters. We pretty much met every single character that's going to matter to the movie, minus one or two.
Yeah, and honestly, it also works because the movie is very self-aware as far as its writing and its humor. And so the fact that it's like, we said Arizona, look, you see the names?
Well, I also like that
it works, though.
It starts off with them riding into the sunset at the beginning of, almost the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, which... It's just a fun little play on, like, the Western idea of riding off into the sunset. Well, they are riding off into the sunset. Yeah.
Yes, it is their happily ever after, but this movie takes place after the happily ever after.
Or it takes place in the middle of trying to create the happily ever after.
Exactly.
Because now we're on to the Arizona household, which feels so bland and boring.
I love this household, though. This set design...
so gaudy.
The set design in general in this movie is fantastic. Because while the outdoor shots are essentially Courage the Cowardly Dog's neighborhood of absolute god shit nothing. There's no town. There's, like, no sets. Like, everything is just in the middle of nowhere by itself, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
It means that this movie takes place in that wonderful Western world of nowhereness. Like we talked about with a lot of old Westerns, where is it? I don't know. We know this is meant to be in Arizona, but, like, this is the nowhereness of Arizona. It's not a town or anything, but the detail in the inside sets, when we see inside the camper, it is exactly what you imagine. When we see inside the Arizona's home, it is gaudy, but it's gaudy in that ugly 80s self-decorated way, where, like, someone read Home Garden magazine, and someone read Martha Stewart magazine, and that's what they base their whole house off of.
Yeah.
And, like, once we get into the children's room, it has the cloud wallpaper, which was very popular at the time. You can see such influences in things like Toy Story and Andy's room.
Yep.
It has that carpet. You know exactly which carpet I'm talking about. The carpet that's, like, squished together and has the little rivers of more squishedness running through it, but it's very firm. You could wear high heels in that carpet and not sink. It's like walking on dense moss.
Maybe the hard rugs they had in, like, Europe, where, like, that was our kind of carpet to kind of soften the already hard floor.
Yes, his hard floor with hard carpet on top of hard floor. It was the style. There's brass in places it has no business being. These children have the largest room for all of them to share in one go, which is kind of hilarious, but also kind of makes sense, but at the same time doesn't. Like, this is just, like, the stupidest way to lay out any kid's room. There's so much crap in this baby's room because there's, like, toys everywhere, but they're all placed very particularly because none of these kids touch them.
Oh yeah, it feels very much like one of those people that you go to their house and nothing moves because
it's been, like, taped down.
Yeah, it's not like any of our houses where, like, there's shit, like, piles of books and shit piled everywhere.
There's no collections. There's no, like, what hobbies do you have display? No. Everything is that level of, like, that certain sandy beige, but, like, a pinky sandy beige.
Because babies.
But not, the baby's room's blue, because this is the 80s, and they are all boys.
Actually, that does make sense, because if I remember right, fashion-wise, it was Nancy Reagan who changed that stereotype, because before, boys used to be pink and girls used to be baby blue.
On top of that, Nancy Reagan was a style icon for the nation. Like, you can kind of see some of it in Miss Arizona's outfits. She is never shown wearing anything other than full setup. Like, she's wearing heels inside, not even house slippers. She's got her hair done, even though she has all these babies. We can only assume she has a nanny, but we never see this nanny. These children just exist in their room with the door closed, which is the most 80s thing I've heard.
It's also nighttime, so the babies are supposed to be asleep.
Also, these babies have no sleeps, like safe sleeping, having whatsoever. There's so many fucking pillows in there. They're all sleeping together in one big crib with their names above each baby.
Yeah.
Like, and they're also not infants. These aren't like babies you put down and they can't roll over. This is like almost a 1-year-old.
I appreciate that they're not that level of infant, though.
I do too, because this does make it funnier, because they like have some independence. Like, these babies can crawl very well. They can all roll over.
Well, and like, as I'll say quote-unquote characters, because let's be honest, they don't have a character for the most part.
Yes.
This is the only time we really see that those babies really do anything.
Yes.
Because like this, outside of that...
Because the baby is a prop in this movie.
Yeah, no, exactly. After this scene, that's what the baby is. The baby is a status symbol. Which
is kind of funny, but also interesting to see the dynamic of how the babies are in each of the different settings. So in the House of the Arizonas, these babies seem to be a prop for the Arizona house, just like everything else in their home. Because they have their own room, the door is closed, and they are downstairs reading the newspapers, side by side, in separate chairs. It is a hassle that they have to go upstairs and tend to one of their children. Or all 5, they don't know, because there's no baby monitors.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it does, at the same time, kind of, like, work with the whole mentality of, well, the babies are doing their own thing. Like, they're just a part of the household that we're just not going to be nearby unless we want to.
Yes, and then to see High's interaction with them, clearly not really knowing what to do with them, not really understanding, but he's trying. He's trying his best. He's also trying to pick one that's trying the least.
Yeah, he's quite horrid at it all.
He is quite horrid at it all. And then by the time pretty much the rest of the movie where the baby is not actively, like, 100 feet away from the camera, the baby is in Ed's arms.
Yeah, or one of them is, because
yes.
The one thing I do like about the gag through this whole movie is no one knows which baby it is. They assume it's Nathan Jr.
And part of that is because they all are in the same crib.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And their names are above them, but again, these are babies old enough to roll over and crawl. They are not staying where you put them. Yeah,
no, exactly. But I do also like the camera work in this part of the movie.
Too.
It's, for the most part, the movie is straightforward, which is nice to see. But also, like, the baby kind of vision and just, like, the absolute chaos they bring is great. It makes me think a little bit of, like, when you're a kid and the first time you ever played Pokemon. You're trying to decide what's the best Pokemon for me.
Yes, and you have to, like, try them all out a little bit. You do all this research. You gotta spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Oh, I didn't do a lot of research. I just liked the turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel that, like, High is trying to pick the best of the babies, and they're all identical babies. So as far as High can tell, they are all the same baby.
Yeah.
And eventually High just picks a baby.
Yeah, it's just also a good way that High is chaotic, and he's not good at handling other chaos unless he is the causer of the chaos.
Yes, and I also think that this is a good, like, reinforcement of High is doing this for Ed. Because I think if High had been the one who wanted the kid, there would have been more emphasis on the differences of the babies.
Yeah.
Because High clearly cannot tell these kids apart.
No.
He can barely tell which one is not fussy. He can barely tell which one is, like, one sprinting away. He's forced to go back because he eventually leaves because he's like, all of them are crying. None of these are, I don't want any of them. This is too much. I'm leaving before I get caught. Comes back to the car, and Ed is like, I will leave your ass here if you do not come back with a baby.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair for High, I would also be horrified if my significant other, who, mind you, is kind of on the side of the law, or has been for the longest time you've known her, is trying so hard to make you go back to your old ways, and he is really trying to do the right thing.
He is. He does not want to get caught to go back to jail, but at the same time, I love that it is very clearly made that this is both of their ideas, because they're both seen watching the news article about how, like, this family has been blessed with 5 children at once.
They've
what a
got
miracle.
More than they can handle.
And they both are like, this is it. This is our sign from God.
Yep. So on the subject of the tiny humans,
yes,
they chose babies because they wanted to make a commercial movie and to sell out in a way, comparing the babies to a cheap shooting scene in a movie where it's like, bang, it's dead. That's exactly what the babies become, is just like, it's this one point.
It feels very 80s. Whether or not they intended it to, having the baby be this type of prop feels very in line with a lot of other comedy films for late 80s and early 90s. Later on, we see kind of like a revive in the, like, babies are funny, but in more of a close-up, they have more character. They're a little bit more unrealistic, honestly.
Baby geniuses.
Yeah, or like Super Nanny, sort of like
I don't
The
know
Nanny.
Nanny.
That's a TV show.
Oh.
The Nanny.
Okay.
Like, where, like, having children is funny, having bad children even funnier, and then the baby is still a, like, prop, but also, like, the next level. An evolved baby, if you will. Whereas this is still, like, the baby is just a prop, but it's not a super baby. It's not, like, disappearing in 2 seconds. It's not throwing things across the earth.
It's no Jack Jack.
It is no Jack Jack, or even early 90s babies in movies where, like, the, like, quote-unquote babysitter is so bad at their job they can't even keep the child from running across the ceiling. And you're like, this is not how babies are. This baby, for the most part, is a realistic baby. Yeah. It's just not a part of the movie at all.
Yeah, it's a prop.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that the Coen brothers did use well is they used the baby as a way to, despite everyone's good intentions, for the most part, besides Mr. Arizona himself, everyone kind of feels like they're above the law, and whether they have good intention or not is, I think, what makes them the good guy or the bad guy in this movie, per se.
Sure.
Even though they're committing crimes.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there really is, quote-unquote, a good and bad guy in this movie. You can narrow it down, but the way this movie's set up is very much like, the law is kind of an extra silly step.
Yeah.
It's just in the way of the plot.
No, it's in the way of everything, as we see a little bit later on, too.
Yeah.
But also, I do want to point out that the Coen brothers didn't write this as a commentary on sterility and the perfect family. It was just a good plot device. But I will say, despite that being just a plot device, it works quite well in that theme. It
does. And it's also, even though I know they didn't intend it, it does turn it into a timeless theme. Even though the decorations, the styling, the way that, like, the babies are seen in, like, a goofy prop manner has changed. Like, how we look at that, how we would display that has changed throughout the years. The base core idea is still very relatable and understandable to no matter what time you, like, are watching this movie in.
No, exactly, because that's one thing about human nature is a lot of people want children. Yeah. And they want a family, whether they want a single companion for the rest of their lives, or they want to add to the family lineage.
Exactly. So, like, even though this movie is silly and set in the most 80s setting humanly possible, it's
outside of, like, New York or LA.
Even then, the fact that this takes place in Courage the Cowardly Dog's desert of nothingness, it almost adds to the, like, emphasis on the characters, because there is no distraction.
No, there's not really much of a scene around them to look at, besides cactuses and brush. The High does return to grab the kiddo, which I swear, and I kept rewinding it a few times, I swear the child says, Dada, when High pops back up in the window.
I mean, maybe.
I swear, and I
did watch this.
Might hear it wrong.
I did watch this with subtitles because I can't hear anything. And I do know that, like, the subtitles, which, because this is an older movie, and while I think the Coen brothers are very thorough, I don't think subtitling was yet part of the movie-making lexicon at this point in history. it was something that you had, but it wasn't like how nowadays there are extra bits and extra information that is added to the subtitles if you care to put them
for the
on.
hard of hearing.
Yeah.
I think we're still a few years out from the American with Disabilities Act, so.
Yeah, and the subtitles for this movie are good if you are needing them or wanting them. Like, they are not... I've watched and read much, much worse. So, like, it is clear who's speaking what and when, but also there's not, like, fun bits like spaceship goes bump or anything like that. I think it just says gurgling at this point.
Yeah, it says something like that.
But, again, this is a late 80s film with the subtitles, so it is fully possible that they had written it for this child to, like, already be connected to high in some way. But no one told the subtitle writer that.
No, not at all. It makes me think of the Korean copy of The Brotherhood of the Wolf, where inserts caption here.
Yes.
But granted, ours was a Korean version, so like...
Yeah, no. Like, that's normally what I'm used to with earlier captioned work. This one was decently captioned, but it wasn't adding anything in case you were hoping to get details like that.
No, not at all. But now they are with child and instructions for tiny humans.
I do appreciate that they stole one of the top 5 books on child rearing during the late 80s and early 90s.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Bringing Home Baby was the second most popular, so, like, this book was one that, like, a lot of our parents turned to.
Interesting. I never thought to ask my parents what books they read on raising children.
My parents definitely had books. Granted, this was, early 90s. It's not that there weren't lots of books, but a lot of them said the same thing over and over again, whereas now we have not only more books, but more scientific studies to go with said books.
Yeah. Or the internet, or you can call your parents on like, hey, what did you do this time? Well,
this movie is taking out the being able to call parents part, and you're just left with the book.
I have to remember my parents, multiple times in our lives, we lived away and long distance calling was a thing, so there wasn't really calling your mom for some quick advice on, my baby's crying, what do I do?
Yes. The book was kind of seen as the, like, guide, and yet it brought about the quote of babies don't come with manuals, because most of these books weren't super useful.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one weird thing that I've never thought of, I guess.
Yes, baby books, especially for this time period. This is a wonderfully accurate detail, and I really enjoyed it.
One thing that I also think is kind of funny about the scene is when Ed is, well, which one did you get?
I don't know.
I don't care. I just wanted one. I think it's the best one. It might be Nathan Jr.
And I love how that's clearly the only one that anyone can remember the name of it.
Nathan Jr. I don't even remember what any of the other names were.
But they're written above the bed. But even their own father can't remember, like, who's who. Because they're like, which one was stolen? He's like, I'm not really sure. I think it's Nathan Jr.
Yeah. And I mean, they get back home and now they're supposed to be a happy family, but this whole movie from here on out is just the story of having a kid to fix a shitty relationship going south. It is the story of a relationship going south, but it is also the start of High becoming prophetic in a way. The man can see the future in very strange ways, and the way that this movie does it, I think, is much more interesting than if it had been presented in any other way. Well, and the baby is a harbinger of chaos, which we see from the very get-go of him trying to pick one of the 5. That is true. And I also think that while this movie doesn't directly take the, like, hard jab at a child will not fix an unhappiness or an unhappy marriage, this movie also does not dismote that. Yeah. It, like, continues on with how things are, how things have been, and then just continues to add the characters you've already met into this situation. Yeah. We might have glossed over that they did try legitimately to have children. Yes, or, like, legitimately Ed cannot have kids. Legitimately adopt, too. Yes, which I do love that sentence of, well, I've got a bit of a checkered past, but Ed here's, a decorated cop, so we figured they kind of canceled out. Yeah. I mean, it's good logic. It's like... It is, but I love how the, like, guy at the agency just unfurling his rap sheet. And it's all the same, same one. It's just
stole from the convenience store, stole from the convenience store, stole from the convenience store.
And as far as we know, it's only like 3 times that he's been to jail.
No, he unfurls it, so it's been like he's at least convicted 4 or 5 times.
He's probably he hasn't been to prison yet. He's been to jail.
He's been to jail several times. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I do like that at the beginning they are clueless on what to even do with a baby because one, they haven't had to deal with raising a child yet.
Well, and like this was definitely the point in time in like American history where you had baby first and then you did research second. We did not have this like open, constant communication that we have nowadays of like, even if you don't want kids, it is hard to not know anything about kids because it is everywhere.
You learn vicariously through your friends.
You do. Or like even the people on the internet, like if you're watching someone on YouTube or on Netflix, like it is hard to get away from the amount of reality that has gotten into our entertainment.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I also like that even though they don't know what to do with the baby, they already are trying to like kind of imprint themselves on the child.
Ed is over the fucking moon here.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like this is everything she's ever dreamed of. She like starts having a breakdown in the car ride home.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean that just shows like kind of what they want differently. And I mean it's both what men and women want from their child. Even though they are raising them a specific way together, they still hope for different things at times.
And it's very like this movie does a very nice job of having the differences between a guy like the 80s expectations of men and women without being rude or forceful in it.
Yeah.
Like not only is this Ed's dream a valid dream, but also like Ed quits her job for all of this. Like, she quit for the depression.
Yeah.
But also, like, she was gonna quit to be a stay-at-home mom anyway.
Yeah, well, it's not even, like, overtly sexist and, like, oh, I want them to... I don't want them to... It's not like saying I want them to have this career or this career.
You know, it's just High, like, daydreams about him playing football.
Well, High sees him as a bad boy. He's got that little glimmer in his eyes that he's a rabble-rouser. He sees himself in this
child that's not his.
No, exactly. And then...
And Ed's like, no, he's a good boy. She sees himself in him. Even though, again, this isn't their child.
No, exactly. And also, they have such an awkward photo where Ed is so concerned, but High is not at all.
Well, High is very concerned about taking a good picture, and Ed is so concerned about the baby that she's not even paying attention to the fact they're taking a photo.
No, exactly. And that's a good way to show that there's more trouble a brewing.
Yes, I also appreciate that this baby's costuming is almost always a diaper with almost nothing else.
No, they're in Arizona. The baby don't need clothing.
But also, this was like an early 90s thing. Like children had clothes, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But just letting your kid run around in a diaper was just kind of like normal. There wasn't the need to constantly have dressed kids. And I know I have some friends who that is still the like constant. They're at home and you are messy. No clothes, easier to clean up. Less laundry.
I guess I've only been around my friends' kiddos when they haven't been dressed.
That's because they are clothed kiddos. It is a more recent thing to have your kids like full clothed out even at home. Huh. Whereas 80s and 90s, even if you were going to other people's homes, there was a hot chance that your friends' kids were coming in just the diapers.
Fascinating.
I don't know why. I have yet to figure out why, but this is a phenomenon, and I appreciate that the Nathan Jr.'s costume is essentially a diaper, even when later they question him, like, what was your son wearing? I don't know, jammies. No, he wasn't. Wearing a diaper. No jammies. Just diaper.
Diapers can be jammies.
Diapers are not jammies. Nope. I will hard and ground that. Okay. Diapers, not jammies.
What about underwear? Is that jammies?
No, because underwear is for big boys. Once you're potty trained, you get underwear.
Okay.
You're in a diaper and you're not allowed to be dropped off in daycare. Just a diaper. Jammies, maybe. Depends on the daycare.
Okay.
Underwear or diaper? Nope, no go.
Okay.
Unless you're in the 80s. In which case, I don't know, maybe.
But that night, the Earth birthed John Goodman and his brother in tow.
I love this scene because it's so out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah. It's such a comedic escape. I mean, this came out before the Shawshank Redemption, which
but it has such Shawshank Redemption vibes.
But it feels even better just because it's just like this primordial, like, I have been freed.
He screams initially, and then he just keeps screaming.
Like, he just...
And then he yanks his brother out by the foot.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just... It's great. It's kind of slapsticky comedy. It feels like
Yes.
one of the Marx Brothers, like, trying to get out of prison.
It feels cartoony.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, but like
Vaudevillian.
it feels vaudevillian without going so far as to feel fake.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels theatrical.
No, exactly. And immediately they're on the run. I did look at the pomade. It's Royal Crown. I was hoping
It was free in that bathroom, and they used a shit ton of it.
I was hoping it was Dapper Dan.
That would have been funny, but alas, it is free stinky pomade that they put in their wet, nasty mud hair.
Yeah.
I also love that these characters are so simplistic that, like, they don't even bother trying to rearrange their clothes or really like, they're seen in a bathroom because they know they need to clean up a little, but they don't do hardly anything.
No,
they are still crusted in mud.
Yeah, it's just a quick bathroom or a sink
He puts
wash.
pomade over the mud in his hair.
Yeah.
Which we then later find out is shit, because it's a sewer pipe that they crawl through.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how bad this man stinks?
Oh, they probably smell awful. No wonder Ed doesn't like them.
I also don't blame Ed, now that I know this.
But I do want to point out the Coen Brothers did say that these characters were added to shake things up a little bit and see how it affected the main two's relationship, which I think was much needed.
I also think it was much needed. I also think it adds an interesting dynamic to this idea of, like, because I do think that Hai could have settled into family life, and this movie wouldn't have gone anywhere, because Hai does everything out of a love for Ed. Whereas these two guys are friends who are going to get him in trouble.
Yes.
And while they are maybe not the most useful characters, they do push the story in a direction it would not have gone otherwise.
Well, I do think they are useful because they serve as counterpart to a couple characters we'll see later, where both of them are disruptive to the other significant other.
Yeah.
These two are disruptive to Ed because, one, they're criminals, and she's still a good girl. She's on the side of the law. She's a law-abiding citizen.
Like absolute dog shit.
That's probably part of it, too. But also, she sees it as a way of, like, these people being here will take away Hai from me.
Yes, yeah.
Even though she won't admit it at this point, that's what she's really afraid of, because where they're still baby focused.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, like, they from here they go and try and visit Hai. They go visit Hai and Ed.
Yes, they're trying to hide out at Hai's place. Yeah,
but they do a bad job of trying to trick them that they're police, and
it is a little funny.
And this is where the lies start building to the people around them, because they're asked. They immediately know something's up, because they're like, "Well, how'd you get the baby?" Or it's even like, "Where were you?" Oh, we were at we were at Ed Jr.'s grandparents. I thought your parents were dead.
Yeah, I wanted to like show him the grave or something.
Yeah,
you just backpedaling so hard.
Yeah, we were actually at Ed's.
Yeah.
Grandparents. I thought your parents were in Phoenix.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I mean, they're already not making a good impression. I mean, granted, everything's built on a bed of sand at this point.
That's true.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, the friends are quite brutish. They're not very pleasant company.
No, but they're also not that bad.
No.
Like, granted, I understand Ed's upsetness with them showing up at 2 a.m, smelling like the nastiest of nasties. But, like, the next morning, like, they are polite. They're sitting there eating their breakfast. They're sloppy, but, they're not that bad.
No, they're just a minor annoyance that don't fit into Ed's dream.
No, that's true.
But before we even get to morning, there's a premonition of the Ghost Rider at night, tough biker, killing or preying on the smaller things.
I love this character, because this character, the Coen Brothers said that they created this character based off of what they thought the characters in this movie would have seen on TV and in movies at the time.
Yes, they didn't want to match their image of what an evil one would have been.
No, they wanted their characters, they wanted Hai in this movie to create this character, and I think they succeeded to an extent.
Yeah, which I do wonder if later on, if the biker, I guess, has to be real, or if the biker is kind of like, because this is a dream movie, kind of.
It is a bit of a dream movie.
Is the biker like a tulpa or something? It's the premonition of, it's Hai's premonition of fear of the future that's going to rattle up their perfect plan.
I think it is both simultaneously. I do think that the way the dream sequences are done in this movie is really nice, because the dream sequences are shown to be just that. They are dreams that Hai is having, and yet all of Hai's dreams come true, and I don't think Hai realizes it.
No.
It's not like they're using this as him seeing the future or being a prophet or even understanding his world around him. He's literally just dreaming, and it gives information for the audience.
Yeah.
And while I know you're not a fan of dream sequences,
oh,
I do think this works though, because it's really just adding information for the audience in a way that's not a flashback.
Yeah, so that's the thing for me is like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Well, I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks. Sugi's the one who's not a fan of dream sequences. Sure. I think this is a great way of introducing, like I said, I like dream sequences because it really shows a mindset of what's going on, where it's, like I said, I think it's Hai's fear of chaos, that while he is a little bit of a rabble-rouser himself,
he is.
He does want that peaceful life, and this thing is going to come and ruin it for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also think that it is interesting that the way this character is designed and made, it feels very much parallel to Hai in character design, where, like, to the extent where when they said, like, oh yes, we wanted Hai to have created this character, you can very much see parts of Hai's character in this secondary, like, almost dreamlike character, where, like, the tattoos that are on this guy feel very much like something Hai would consider, like, oh my gosh.
No.
Well, but, like, in the same way that he would get it, the bike he drives isn't over the top or crazy, but it's a Harley. It's got a baby seat on the front. Later, he has a baby car seat strapped to the very front of it.
Yeah, because the baby's in a car seat at that point.
That's not where... No, this is not the correct way to have a baby on a motorcycle. There is no correct way, in case you were wondering. But, like, this is really not it.
The sidecar.
Sidecar would honestly maybe be the closest thing you can get.
Yeah.
Even in the 80s, honestly. Like, this is Hai's, like, but Hai wouldn't know that. Hai didn't even know they needed a car seat. Like, they have, like, it's not until later that they show having one.
That's why Hai got an instruction manual.
That is why Hai got an instruction manual.
Yeah. But one thing I do like about this dream sequence, too, is it's a good way of, I like the floating bits of that. That's why I like dream sequences. But also, it's a good transition into them finding out that Nathan Jr. is missing. Just there's that quick transition of, like, okay, they dream up into the nursery and the woman screaming.
Yes, I also think it's a really nice way of tying Hai's dreams into reality to the point where there is no right or wrong way to interpret Hai's dreams, which means the ending feels much more realistic and fluid, which we'll get to, but, like, I like that from the beginning we build towards that. Yeah.
And so we get to the morning where Mr. Arizona is talking to the press that he thinks Nathan Jr. is missing.
I love that his wife is nowhere to be seen.
She's gone off with the other quints to, or what's the quads? Yeah, the quads. Yeah, the quads.
Yeah, the quads now.
She's taking the quads to her mother's house in case someone else tries to break in.
Yeah, which is hilarious because now this... And then he ends this interview with, like, a sales pitch for his furniture business.
Yeah, well, he's like, I'm gonna offer up this reward money or I ain't Nathan Arizona.
However, even though throughout this... And we don't see a lot of the Arizonas, really. But the one line that does, I think, come back and play nicely is one of the reporters asked that, you know, there's a rumor that aliens took him.
Yeah.
And he goes, don't print that, the missus will be so upset. It's not true. Don't print that garbage.
Yeah.
It's the missus will be upset. Which later on, I think, does come back and play about how, like, even though this man is a piece of garbage and, like, maybe a little silly, he does love his wife.
Nathan?
Yeah.
How's Nathan a piece of garbage?
Because he's clearly ripping people off. Later on, he's like talking with, like, the cop and the FBI simultaneously, and they're like, how do you afford all this? And he's like, how do you think I afford all this?
Okay.
You're gonna lose everything. You're gonna have to fight. Like, it could be a disgruntled employee. They're all disgruntled employees.
Okay, he's not.
He's not a good guy, but he does love his wife.
He's just a hardened businessman of the 80s, is what he is.
He is a sleazy salesman.
Sure.
He is.
Okay.
He's the definition of a sleazy car salesman, but he sells unpainted furniture.
Yeah, I guess.
Because they don't make it in cars yet.
But we do also learn his name is Nathan Huff Hines, but he changed it to Nathan Arizona, because...
For the business.
Which, I mean, makes sense.
I mean, it's a little funny.
Yeah, and I do like the little bit of comedy between the back and forth between the jurisdictions, which I do have a question.
I might have an answer.
Do you think the feds are really men in black?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And I think, and I will tell you why. I think that the entire Aliens bit is a play on the interest and, hype that aliens were at the time period that this was set. You know, mid-80s is when this movie's set. And also, this movie, while being set in the middle of nowhere, does go out of its way to remind you over and over again that this is set in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And for the 80s, for the middle of the desert, why not aliens? It would have been on people's mind. Like, it would have been a common running theme, a common running gag. It's a little weird now, because it doesn't necessarily... Like, it's not something... It's not the same styling of alien that we're used to. It's not the same focus that we would have. And we've, at this point, seen a lot of, like, variation on gags of it because of things like Men in Black. But I really do think that the two alien references are seriously just that weird guy, that bad paper that would have printed the aliens, have invaded the president.
Yeah.
And then this is the 80s. Who else are you going to call other than the feds and the local sheriff?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, at this, if they were an option, I'm sure Mr. Arizona would have also called them.
Okay. I was just curious, because in my mind, I'm like, what if maybe they are? Maybe they're investigating, maybe there is an alien here.
And I think a lot of the later alien movies that we get do play off of this styling of nostalgia into that alien franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie is so hyper-focused on just that time period, that flavor of 80, that it is in there. It is bled into the 80s.
Okay.
It's hard to get rid of it.
I can see it. But I do also like Nathan Arizona's outburst. I think it's the whole line of, they don't know the difference between a clue or a hole in the ground, because we immediately cut to a hole in the them looking at a hole in the ground, which is obviously the hole that we saw earlier that Goodman was birthed from.
I mean, it would have had to be a large hole. It just exited two men. It's
nice subtle humor, and I mean
it is, and it's all, again, it's cleanly written, which is a nice thing about most of the Coen Brother movies. I say most because I haven't seen them all.
Same. But, the biker he's there, he's kind of everywhere in this movie, but I don't know why he's hunting. Oh, no, we do find out why he's hunting convicts. He's a manhunter.
He's a manhunter.
Yeah, that's right.
He's Dog the Bounty Hunter, but before Dog was a TV show.
Yeah. But we do finally cut back to Hi and Ed, but or more so Hi's buddies and Ed, who's also being rude back to them. To be fair, they are being kind of rude to her.
A little bit, but also you can tell that Ed thought she had everything, and she is scared of having it all slip out from under her again.
No, exactly. Even if she doesn't know it.
Exactly.
It's not so much that she's afraid of they'll report Nathan Jr., but I think it's subconsciously she's also afraid they'll take Hi away from her again.
And I mean, at this point, she's checked all the boxes. She has a husband with a good job. She has a nice house. At this point, they've upgraded. They're no longer in the Airstream.
No, they're still in the Airstream.
No, at this point, they've upgraded to a single wide.
Okay.
Trailer still, but it's a nice trailer. It's got real walls.
I didn't think their house changed at all.
It does.
Huh.
They don't make a big deal about it. But at the very beginning, they're shown in an Airstream. And then at some point, I didn't go back to rewatch and make a note when, but, so this is the beginning when they're in the Airstream. And then later, they switch over, and they're in I think it's a single wide.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
And I only know this because I have a neighbor who has that single wide.
Okay.
Same tan color, same shutters, the whole works. Little porch on the front.
I did not look that up. Huh.
I think it's a single wide. It might be a double, but it never they don't make a big interest in it.
Huh. Interesting.
But she has a house. Like, she's got her dream at this point.
All right. I didn't
I only noticed this because at one point I was really invested in the set, and I thought to myself, that is not what the inside of an Airstream looks like. That's the inside of a trailer. I've been in those before. I know what that floor smells and sounds like.
That's a nice subtle upgrade for them.
It is. It's really well done. Same lot, same land, but yes, upgraded.
Yeah. And now they have to get rid of the criminal friends. They have to skedaddle for a bit because now the non-criminal friends of Ed are coming over. Kind of Ed. They're actually like they're High's High's foreman and his wife.
So this is something that I think if you are into this time period in movies and TV, you would catch a little bit quicker. But if you're not, it is something to easily miss because it's not something that we do anymore or is even presented in shows. This is essentially the ladies have gotten, the wives have gotten together and agreed to have a work brunch. Mm-hmm. This would have been something to kind of help promote Ed or promote High in a way. And the ladies would have done it as a bit of a bonding, a bit of a mom on mom time. Mm-hmm. But also this is very much entertain the boss for the good of your career. Okay. It's not something we do anymore. It is, as far as I'm aware, frowned upon. But it is something that was common in media during this time. Yeah. Not gonna lie, I totally missed it and that's what was happening until about halfway through their interactions, because I was like, they are wrecking Ed's dream home here. Oh yeah. I mean, she is letting it happen, but she's letting it happen because this is all part of the show to get High a better job.
Well, and they're such noisy people, and I love how uncomfortable High is in not adjusting to domestic life, because this feels like a little, for him, foreshadowing of what his future will hold with kids.
And I also think that Ed feels really uncomfortable here, too. Mm-hmm. So far, she's done a pretty great job with Nathan Jr. He's, for the most part, been shown to be a quiet and fairly happy baby. She doesn't have everything for him, very obviously. They're missing a lot of stuff, but, she's figured out bottle and milk and feeding him and all that work. Yeah. And then this lady and her, 1 billion kids show up, and none of them are well-behaved. They're all breaking shit. One of them has, a broom and is just beating random crap in the house.
Yeah. Well, that's also why she's annoyed with the other friends who are getting more suspicious, where they're like, why aren't you breastfeeding? You look ample enough.
Well, and that's also just, it's one of those things where Ed probably is also mad that she can't. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where, this other woman also spends all of her time quizzing Ed about the baby, about what they have ready for the baby, what they've got set up. And to be honest, even if this had been their baby, Ed and High are not in a position where most of the stuff this woman is, quizzing Ed on would have been realistic. They would have maybe had the doctor part figured out, but, they are not making enough money to be opening up all these, accounts for the kid and, setting up all this extra stuff for him. This woman is making Ed feel like a terrible mom.
No,
and exactly. Ed is I don't know what to do, help High, and High is overwhelmed to the nines.
Oh, yeah, no,
Poor guy is having the worst time.
Yeah, I mean, the movie transitions a little bit where, the sky is not as bright. It's kind of bleak and overcast, and they're having, a really basic lunch. It's nothing really special.
Which would have also been, kind of hard on Ed, because, Ed would have been the hostess and would have been expected to, make everything for this. This is probably not potluck style. No. And now she has to feed all of these rambunctious kids on top of these 2 idiots. Yeah. Just having a hard day.
Well, on top of that, they're obviously suspicious of how they got the kiddo so quickly.
And on top of that, the High's boss is just really not reading the room here.
No, he's very much that stereotypical borderline racist dude where he's we tried adopting, and they didn't have any white babies for us. They had a couple of them Koreans and
this man just keeps opening with a heart on his chest. Every other sentence, High is being I don't understand your joke. Yeah. I don't think it's funny. He's not even being, subtle about it. He's just being man, look, you're not funny. No. This isn't a joke. I don't like any of this. And this man is not catching the drift.
No, not at all. And, the guys, Like, he doesn't even know how to tell a joke properly is part of it, too.
And it kind of sort of feels like he showed up drunk, but, like, they don't show him that way. He's just, like, that socially bad.
Yeah.
And there's not even, like, that many people to socially impress. It's just him and High.
He feels like the stereotypical jockish guy who peaked in high school, but now he's a foreman.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, man, this is stressful on everyone, and it's going poorly no matter how you look at it.
Oh, yeah. And even off on their own, he's not a great dude for, like, reading the room.
No, he's doing a terrible job.
One, I do wonder why High is carrying his shoes in the desert, but whatever.
They're his nice shoes, and they are not to be dirty.
But
And then he puts them back on. I know, I don't. That was my original thought, too, was like, oh, well, maybe they were going out for a hike. I wouldn't wear my nice shoes either to, like, show off your yard.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, he puts them back on, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, and I think Glenn as a character is interesting in one regards to the plot.
Yes.
He is the guy who's really open about, like, why they're not happy in a relationship. He's the first one that really starts, like, pointing out their issues.
Sure.
Where he's like, yeah, you're missing your excitement. You guys all you settled down. You have a kid. You have a wife. Let me guess. I bet she's not putting out the way she used to.
Which is also, he comes off this way, like, super unprovoked.
No.
And then on top of that, he, like, starts this conversation just out of the blue telling High that he can't perform anymore.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And you're like, sir, you have too many children for this to be now in my head. Leave. Get out of here.
Well, that's the reason they're having to adopt is he's not able to perform.
But then, like, almost immediately after, first off, oversharing. Mm-hmm. And then telling High all about what he thinks their problems are. He then is like, also, we're swingers. We should trade wives. And poor High is already at the end of his rope. So there's not even room to be like, sir, back the fuck up.
Yeah. Well,
it's too late. High is gonna snap.
Well, and on top of that, like, it feels like he's having issues being the manly man he wants to be. But also, we know there's a Russian serial killer who had a bunch of kids and couldn't keep it hard inside a woman, so...
Yeah, like, and on top of that, on top of everything, the way that this man, presents this information, and then the way he has talked for the rest of it, I do not blame High for jumping to the conclusion that even if he told him no thank you, it would not stop the advances.
No.
So I feel that this is one of the only times that High chose the correct path of punching his boss.
He even tries to butter him up that, like, hey, my wife thinks you're kind of handsome, dude.
But, like, at no point has High even, like, remotely shown an interest in this. This man is that bad at reading a room.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even like he, you know, gave any subtle hints. The wives haven't even, like, discussed this at all. This man is coming out of left field, assaulting High with this knowledge and information.
No, exactly.
And then I also love that High punches him. He punches him real good. I don't think High actually broke his nose, though. I think when he turned around and ran, that's when his nose broke.
Yes, no, exactly. He just, one else was there to see it.
Yeah, so High, I would argue High didn't really do that much.
No, not at all. But Ed is really upset with High because obviously she is.
Well, and, like, she just had stressful, and, like, as far as she knows, yeah, he just broke his boss's nose for no reason, because High won't tell her that his boss is a creepy creeper fuck.
No, exactly. But Ed himself, or sorry, not Ed, High himself is he's riding the high of punching his boss in the face. He's a bad boy again.
That did feel good, yeah.
Because we are right back to his old ways.
Yes.
At the exact same convenience store.
I do appreciate, though, that even though he's back on his old ways, what does he steal?
Mm-hmm.
Diapers.
No, well...
He steals a box of Huggies.
And money. Tries to run
and money.
Yeah.
But, like, also a box of Huggies for the baby.
Yeah, and I also love the moment in this part, too, where Ed's just sitting in the car and, like, she's like, it's a little too quiet. It's taken a little too long for him just to buy Huggies.
Yeah.
And then she looks up and he's robbing the store.
Yeah. But he did get the Huggies.
Yeah.
Good for you, High.
Well, there's some nice semi-shaky cam that as he's trying to get out. Also, she immediately leaves because she hears the sirens, and the cops are awful at their job in this town.
They are, which is really funny because High's been caught how many times now?
At least 3 as far as we're aware.
3 that we have watched on camera.
Mm-hmm.
His rap sheet shows 5 to 6.
Yeah.
These cops are garbage at their job, but High's worse.
Oh, yeah. And we get, like, the first, like, really big chase of this movie, too, where, I mean...
But it feels high stakes because nothing else has been, but also, like, this is not an action scene.
No.
The most action is Ed's station wagon taking a big ol' U-turn.
I'd say it's an action scene.
It is action for this movie.
Yeah.
But boy, nobody's drifting. The guns are being shot, like, in the air.
It's not action by what we would expect of modern movie standards.
Exactly. And again, high station wagon cannot take a tight corner to save its life.
It's a comedic. It's from a cartoon chase.
And honestly, it's kind of charming because because it's not that fast paced. It gives both of them time to be like, well, fuck it, we're in this together.
Because doesn't he have a Woody Woodpecker tattoo? Because it feels like if this is truly High's dream, it feels like all these events are just things he saw in cartoons.
I would believe that. I would fully believe that High has based a lot of his life off of WB.
Yeah, I can see it. Because, I mean, he's chased by dogs, he's chased by cops, he steals a car, the store clerk is just chasing him because that clerk is just out for blood.
Yeah, he's done being robbed.
Yeah, he's just like, I got my gun, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, but also no one can aim worth a lick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he runs through a house that's unlocked, which... I guess kind of makes a little sense. I mean,
it does. It's mid-'80s, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of at the start of Richard Ramirez crime spree that kind of ended people leaving their doors unlocked for the most part.
We're also in the middle of absolute butt nowhere Arizona. Yeah. So, like, even if the news of this guy had happened, it would not have impacted everyone just yet.
Oh, not yet. But I also... The cops in this movie give zero shits about public safety.
It is the 80s, so that does feel accurate.
Yeah. It's over the top, but it feels like a small town story is what it is.
Yeah, because it is. As far as we know, this is the only convenience store.
Yeah. But something that's interesting that I thought with Ed's character at this part, she starts swearing in front of Junior after telling High not to, like, 2 scenes before.
Yes, she does. And on top of that, she starts by driving away to leave High there. And then about halfway through, changes her mind and is like, fuck it, I'm gonna go get my husband.
And that's where they cross paths again, which...
And then when she picks him up, she's mad, but at the same time, like, it's mad and it's not mad in the way of, like, when we stop this car, it's over. It's mad in the, like, I can't believe you did that again.
Yeah, it's in the reverse way of, like, in a lot of movies when they're having arguments, they're just arguing the whole time. Their core, or even just in general, like, even if you're trying to give your significant other a direction, you're still pissed at them, so you're going to take a tone with them. They are so cordial when they're like, turn left here, honey.
Yeah, no, High seems to be, like, feeling better now that he's robbed the store and let off some steam.
He just needs that outlet. I mean, to be fair...
No, he does. High just needs an outlet, and maybe robbing isn't the correct outlet. Maybe he needs to take up, like, tennis or track and field or something.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. Glenn was right. That's the thing. Glenn was right. He just went the wrong way about it.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah. But I also like that this shows where High starts changing really as a character, because even though he's gone back to his old ways, he's setting his priorities first. They went back to get the Huggies and not the money. And
he doesn't even tell Ed that that's what they're turning around for. Because she's berating him this entire drive.
Yeah.
And he's like, turn right here, please.
Yeah.
Turn left here. Oh, one more block. There's the Huggies.
Yeah, no, exactly. One set of Huggies that's going to last them a week.
Oh, yeah, barely.
Yeah. But back home, the boys are drinking that good old Budweiser and making a real mess of their place.
They are. It does feel a little bit like, it doesn't feel disrespectful. It just feels like 2 guys who don't know how to behave.
2 guys who have been drinking since the moment they woke up.
Yeah, granted, they are drinking Budweiser.
Yeah.
So they probably just really need to go bathroom. But, like, they don't really make the biggest mess until High gets home and starts confronting them about all of it. And then they start really, like, tearing the place up, trying to, like, honestly, bro wrestle it out.
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, they do make the point that, and they're right too, is that Ed and High are not doing too well as a couple.
Yeah.
And in a way, Gale is kind of a businessman like Raising Arizona, or not Raising Arizona, like Nathan Arizona, where he's trying to convince him that, hey, you know, you could always come back to the old ways. We got something lined up if you're interested.
See, here's where I think later the prophecy, like the end prophecy, really pays off. Because Gale is a smart man. But, at least by this movie's standards, keep that in mind, everyone in this movie's a little dumb. So Gale does have some smarts. He does understand, High's dilemma and his problems, and he goes, I know, you don't have a job anymore that's gonna make the missus worried. We got a big job coming up. So, he does have some smarts. He just isn't ready to play by the rules yet.
Well, and on top, he's smart and dumb at the same time. I mean, he's planning a spree with no thought for the future. They're not even thinking of, we could go down to Mexico. We could just...
No, and I think that's why, from the beginning, when High says, I've got something now to keep me on the road, I do think that for this movie, that is, a big part for the characters, is, yes, High does stumble back, but High does have a grounding block. He does have Ed, and while he is thinking of Ed for this heist, it is in a different way than his now two buddies, who are just kind of doing it for the shits and giggles.
Yeah, they're not out of their old ways.
No, not at all.
And, I mean, from here, he's kind of considering it, but we cut to the biker dude finding them by the smell of pomade, remind you.
Oh, well, and other stuff.
No, just the pomade.
He does. He does have bloodhound-like nose, apparently.
Yeah, because all we've seen of the biker dude is the dream, killing wildlife and
oh, that's right.
That
he grenades a bunny at one point.
This dude, outside of the dream, we've seen him go to the by the hole. He goes to the gas station,
and then sniffs the air.
Yeah, smells the pomade, which I assume is probably the closest gas station to the.
It's probably the only gas station.
Yeah, and that's how he's tracked them to this point. Is the pomade. I
do appreciate that while he is a realistic character, he is somewhat mysterious and supernatural in a way where we spend so little time with this guy that we don't know anything about him at all. So he does feel like that mysterious evil. Yeah. That High has imagined him to be.
Exactly. And he just kind of sitting on the breeze waiting because, I mean, we do get a little bit of more information. I do want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Where when they do get home, Ed is still pissed at him, but she says, your friends better be gone by the time I get back tomorrow from going to get shots for Nathan Jr.
I do appreciate...
Or scheduling
shots. Yeah, scheduling shots for Nathan Jr. I understand Ed's point of view, though. Because from her point of view, none of this wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have been tempted to go do this nonsense if his two friends hadn't shown back up.
No, exactly. Well, he probably would have if the friends showing up do kind of put that little bit of spree into him, and Glenn pushes him over the edge.
Glenn 100% pushes him over the edge, yeah.
Yeah, but we get a little shot of High planning on leaving, dropping a reward for Nathan Jr. and making sure that they're living the easy life while he's on the run kind of thing.
I do appreciate that this is showing kind of the progression of what it means to have that one person that you do everything for.
Yeah.
Because it shows that in the beginning it was easy for him to do the daily grind for Ed, and then it got a little harder and a little harder, but it's always for Ed.
Yeah.
Well, and now he can't really think of another way to do it, because in his head, he's fired, there are no other jobs. This is something he knows how to do, and he loves Ed so much that, I'll just give up my portion of the reward. Her and Nathan Jr. can live happy, and I'll keep the cops off of them.
Yeah, well, it's also him thinking that he's the problem when he really isn't. It's a joint problem, and I think it's just, again, a movie about a couple who have a bad relationship that they're trying to fix by having a kid.
Yes, and not talking correctly. Because
exactly.
Again, I think Ed would be a lot more sympathetic if High would just be like, hey, my boss was out here trying to get with you, so I punched him in the face. Ed would probably think that's romantic as shit.
Yeah. Oh, my sweetie.
Oh, you standing up for me.
You shouldn't have, but...
don't punch nobody, but I do appreciate you defending my honor.
Yeah. But from here we are on to Unpainted Arizona, which...
Oh, yes.
God, him in the furniture shop, lighting the match, tries so hard to be badass.
It's so good.
But I also like that Arizona is a real no-nonsense man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we finally learned the biker's name is Leonard Smalls.
Which is probably a play off of the name Lenny Smalls from Of Mice and Men.
Huh. If they let him go instead of...
Maybe, but also at the same time, like, the Coen Brothers are really known for pulling from classical literature.
Okay.
And as best we can tell, this is one of... this movie, by and far, is one of their more lightly peppered with classical literature. It's more of influences, and some names are probably pulled from.
Okay.
This one is like the most obvious, I think. Whereas other movies is just straight retellings of classical literature.
As someone who's not read a lot of classical literature, I can see how this would go over my head.
I think of Mice and Men, though, is right up your alley if you have not read it.
I've not.
I do think that is one of the few ones that is worth your time.
I know enough about it where...
There's a movie version.
I'm gonna love him and hug him and call him George.
Yes, it's that.
Yeah,
but more depressing.
Yeah, I'm aware. I've seen...
I'd say there's a movie version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Okay. Maybe it's at some point. But I do like that immediately Arizona is not trusting of him at all. He's like, I don't believe you.
Yes.
But I also like that when he's like, I'm going to call the cops. Boom, he's gone with the wind.
He does still feel mysterious.
Very dreamlike at times.
Yes.
Or it feels westerny at times, too.
It does feel westerny in that, like, nothing is real sort of way. And I think that it works because it helps reground High's dreams later, his, like, prophetic dreams.
Yes. Well, and from here we cut to High getting ready to, like, leave with his friends and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But Glenn shows up and is a real dick as lies begin to crumble around everyone knowing who Nathan Jr. is, or High Jr. is.
High Ed Jr.
High Ed Nathan Jr. Which, God, Glenn is such a shitty character. He's like, I'll give you a day to break into the missus, but I'm coming back. And by the way, you're going to have to pay me for my surgery, or you're going to get a hospital bill in a few days.
I also appreciate that he shows up purposefully looking more decrepit than he probably needed to be. Like, it looks like he messed his own hair up and stuff in the car on the way there.
Yeah, he's got a neck brace and everything, too.
Yeah, which he definitely doesn't need.
No. And also, like, he's a douchebag because he's got a sticker on his car that says, "Caution, I drive naked."
I agree, and I also think that as an audience, you get rewarded for, like, really pegging his vibes as, like, wow, this guy's a pretty terrible guy.
Yeah.
At the end when, like, because, like, it all pays off. Like, you get rewarded for being like, because, like, at first you could be like, well, I don't know, but, like, no. If you play along, if you connect the dots with High, you get rewarded for being like, wow, this guy's a piece of crap.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, like, his whole bit of, like, I'll talk as loud as I fucking want. He doesn't say fucking, but...
But, like, as he's backing up, like, into his car because he is scared of High.
Yeah, High kicked his ass.
But also he didn't. The cactus did.
Kind of, yeah.
He kicked his own ass.
Yeah, exactly. But it's too late. His buddies have heard, and it's time for the good old trailer house brawl, which...
Of course. Then... And I do feel like this is one of the few ways that High does learn. Mm-hmm. Like, and not just learn, like, the slow way that he has been, like, but really decides to take action.
Yeah.
Is being, like, physically forced to.
Yeah, well, and he does kind of hold his own, too, and I think there's a fun, like, kind of reversal of roles where the one brother, who's obviously the more stereotypically feminine character of the two brothers, is cowering in their bedroom with the child, like watching your parents fight or your dad fight off a home attacker, even though they're the ones trying to steal the kid. It's kind of like what should have happened if Arizona had caught High taking the kid out.
Yeah.
But this is also the part where it feels, at least from a Cage point of view, his most cagiest, because, like, the scream is so bad and comedic.
It is, which is saying something, because, again, while all of the acting in this movie is pretty fantastic, especially on Cage's behalf, because it is very, like, pulled in, this is as close as we get to a, like, full Cage explosion, and even then, it's pretty tame.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, he doesn't go as stereotypical apeshit yelling at stuff.
No, like, and it's not even as, like, dramatic as even some of his very early roles where he's trying to portray being angry. This is pretty, like, well-balanced for a Cage rage.
Yeah. Which
is impressive because it is easy to just do the one thing you know, or the one thing that you've gotten good at acting wise, it is impressive that while this is still very Cage, it is acted Cage. Do I prefer an over-the-top Cage? Of course I do. But I am impressed by the acting ability.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I like it too, and I think also like the setting up of the movie at this point with the kids having trashed the place.
Yeah,
it all comes like his problems. This entire movie don't stem from Ed; it stems from children.
Well, and also the like
not the right children either.
Yeah, like because it's not even Nathan Jr. necessarily. It is like other people's expectations of what his family should look like.
Yeah.
And, like, them trying to, like, bring that into his house. And he's like, man, I was really enjoying this nice little trailer that I had with Ed. And, like, I could have put up with Nathan Jr. too. She loves him an awful lot.
Yeah, no, exactly. But his friends are leaving, and Ed's happiness is short-lived as she returns. But High is stepping up because he's gonna get Ed Jr. or High Jr. back.
Yep.
Which they do go back and forth on the name a couple times.
I love that they both call the kid the other one's name Junior.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
That's
cute.
It's very sweet because it still shows that they love each other that much.
And it is in the most like basic, like simplistic character way of like, what are you gonna name your kid? I'm gonna name it my spouse's name because that's my favorite person.
Yeah, they'll be the memory of our love.
Yeah.
Which I've always thought Junior is a weird thing to do. But, I mean, I get it from, like, a historical standpoint of...
Well, you can't call him the second.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, no, he technically would be the second. He'd be the third. You go Junior third.
Yeah, you go Junior third.
Why do we do that? That's weird.
Because Junior exists.
But why?
I don't know. It would be nice to have a second, but there isn't. I believe it always goes
That's
Junior
like calling Pope
third.
James Jr.
That'd be hilarious.
Or whatever the current Pope is. Or
because
whatever
because James Jr., I believe, is my father's name.
My father's name is James, and one of my names is James, so...
Welcome to the James Club. All of my family's name is James, too!
So is mine. We have every type of James you could ever have. We got Jim Bob Joe.
Yep, so do we. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was Jimmy.
So was mine.
Yeah. Well, we have so much in common that I didn't realize.
But now doesn't this whole movie feel like it makes more sense?
Yes, it does quite a bit.
Yeah, having Eddie, High, Nathan Jr. really just kind of, like, it feels like, yes, like this movie takes it a stereotypical turn, but it also is done so in such a, like, realistic way that, like, you see the intent of, like, the sweetness behind the characters.
No, exactly. But I also, when we cut from here, we cut to the friends driving in the car, which I think the driving plates behind them are so bad.
I do.
But it works.
I do.
And it just kind of...
It grounds this movie in its time period, I think. It'd be kind of like having, like, a movie that's trying to be set in the 30s, and they're driving, and they don't have that stupid green screen driving scene.
Yeah.
It would feel wrong. This feels like a mid-80s film because of this. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, it feels very, like, the whole movie in itself feels very Americana. Like,
does.
We've referred to this as, like, a small town tall tale.
And this part feels like a modern interpretation of a Western, like, ride scene, which also adds to, like, the Coen Brothers, like, repertoire of adding in, like, historical bits to their movies. Historical references, whether that be in movie and film or in literature.
Yeah, I can kind of see it. It also builds a way to, like, establish those brothers just a little bit more as characters instead of just, oh, they're his criminal friends. They
feel real now.
They feel like the next step that High would have gone through if he hadn't met Ed, because
they would have been a trio instead of a duo.
Yeah, because their MO is the exact same as, well, one of the brothers is the exact same.
It makes you wonder if in jail High learned some stuff from them.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. But it also is a way to build them up as, like, hey, they kind of fell in love with Junior as well. They're not such bad guys that they can't, that they're still...
They're silly, but, like, you feel for them.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I also like when they rob the store, there's a bit of comedy of, like, we'll come back if you get up and haven't counted up to that number and down from the number. But
son, you're wearing pantyhose on your head.
Yeah. But, that's later on. That's the bank. But I also like that they subvert the humor in this movie subvert expectations, where they're driving away and you're expecting them to be angry because they left Junior behind because that's their payday.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's because they've fallen in love with Junior.
Which is really cute, because it kind of adds to them being a likable set of criminals.
Yeah. No, exactly. And from here, we cut back to Ed and Hi, who are finally coming to their sense, or Ed's finally coming to her sense. She's like, shit, I'm supposed to be on the side of the law. I made you kidnap a child. What the hell were we thinking of kidnapping a child to solve our issues?
Yes, I do appreciate that, like, both of them, in their own ways, come to a new understanding. Like, they both have a journey.
Yeah, they're realizing that, hey, maybe this relationship wasn't right, or maybe we're not doing the right things to fix it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, which Biker finds their place trash, and actually is a good hunter. He's putting 2 and 2 together pretty quickly with the newspaper and the bank.
I do appreciate that they show him using something other than his, like, sense of smell.
Yes.
Because this does make him... Like, there is an argument that you could have made up until this point for this not being a real person.
Yeah.
And now that you're like, okay, well, no, he's a lot, but he is a real person.
Yeah, he's actually putting 2 and 2 together, but he just happens to have the nose of a dog.
Or that pomade really fucking stinks.
I mean, it's mixed with shit, so...
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably smells really bad.
Yeah. But I do like that from here we cut back to them fighting with, or they're doing the robbery with Junior.
Which is kind of hilarious.
And I like that it's a fun little comedy of the old man pointing out they have mixed commands. Yes. And also the bank tellers follow the commands.
And it very much feels like this bank has been robbed before. Like, no one's taking this super duper seriously.
Yeah. No, it's exactly the corner store or the convenience store that Hi keeps robbing every time. This is like
the bank they have robbed.
Third
before.
time this year this has happened.
Yeah.
Not that they've robbed, but the other
someone
people
has robbed. Yes.
And what do? They leave Junior behind again. And I do like that they don't follow like the rules of threes where like a lot of the jokes only happen twice.
Yes. Partially because we don't have time for a rule of 3 for a lot of these jokes.
No, exactly.
The pacing of this movie, again, at no point does it like have a lull or even a sprint. We are at a constant, steady drumbeat of a pace for this whole movie.
Exactly. And and I like that they set it up so that the way they can't go back and pick up Junior is the bank bag explodes.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's how Ed and Hi find them and nowhere to go, but now the biker's here too.
Time to face our ultimate fear.
Which, one thing I do want to bring up, the music choice for this movie.
Yes, it's very subtle, but it's good.
So odd but quirky and fits it throughout the whole movie.
I agree. I don't think the soundtrack is so impactful that it stands alone, but it does add to the movie as opposed to other movies like, say, maybe Boy in Blue, where it's distracting or not even there.
I will say the one song that stands out is the main theme that we hear periodically, like when the quirky stuff's happening.
I would agree. I do think that the songs are, like, strong enough to be, like, useful. Like, they all add to the movie. But it's not a soundtrack that I'm going out of my way to, find or listen to. Yeah.
I also think, like, in this whole fight, the dino scream from Smalls is odd, but kind of works. That
It
he's
does.
more than human, or maybe he's not fully human. Maybe he's a wild man.
He is a wild man with some very strange intimidation tactics.
Yeah, and I mean it's a fun fight scene. There's some really good parts where like Ed really steps up being a mother first, where it's subtle, but she pulls her badge off and throws it to the side because she's going to do whatever it takes to keep that baby safe.
Law be damned.
Yeah. I am surprised, and I kind of wish they did it a little bit more, is the biker riding his bike into absolutely everything. Like, into their trailer or into the, into Arizona's store. Yeah.
I do like that it does, again, this feels very much like a Tom and Jerry-ish skit, but with much higher stakes and much more real people. It doesn't feel too vaudevillian. No. But it does still feel slapsticky.
Yeah, because we get the big explosion at the end, because he's beating Hi's ass pretty good.
I mean, as he probably should. Yeah. Don't be wrong. Hi definitely can throw a punch. We've seen it. However, Hi is a silly, skinny little guy.
Yeah, he's no match for Smalls.
No, definitely not. Smalls is... And that's part of the reason why I assume that the connection is made to the Smalls of Mice and Men, because he's also a big guy.
Okay. Not exactly the brightest, but he's good at, like, one thing.
He's strong. He's big and strong.
Yeah. But I do have questions on this part, too, because I do wonder, because originally Small says he's going to sell the child
on the black market.
He knows what they sell for.
Yeah,
But,
like 50-something or something like that.
I mean, the adoption in this area seems necessary. Everyone seems to want to have a kid right now.
Especially a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby like that, straight fallen from heaven itself.
Yes. But I wonder if he would have fallen in love with Junior as well. I think maybe so, because
this baby seems to have a magic of power.
Well, they also, like, compare that the only one or two things that survive of Smalls is, like, a pair of booties that he had on his shoulder or something, and just
no idea.
I don't know. I
no idea. I like the thought that it's a maybe.
I personally would have thought I personally want that to be like a side reality where they go off lone wolf and cub style hunting criminals for bounty, and
it's very cute, but the way this movie's world is set up, it's very much set up in the nothing bad can truly happen to Nathan Jr.
Yeah. Because
he is the baby. The cutest, bestest baby to ever baby.
Yeah.
Despite having 4 identical siblings.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, like, everyone, like, wanting that one. But that's how they picked him. They picked the best one.
Well, that's what High told Ed, that I picked the best one. In reality, we watched that man flounder, grab a baby, and leave.
Not even, no. He picked the best one because he came back, and it's the one that was paying attention to him.
That's true.
Called him Dada, remember?
Yes.
And he thinks he picked the best one.
He's pretty sure he picked the best baby.
But now it is time to return Junior, but they're caught this time.
Yes. I do like this caught scene, though.
Yeah, Burt Manuel returned too, which the manual did nothing the rest of the movie.
No, but, like, I like to assume that Ed read that cover to cover.
I don't think Ed had time to read it.
I have no idea. They don't show this book ever again.
Again, they put the gags in, like, it happens twice the entire movie.
But it's well placed and it's well timed. Yeah. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like I've been, like, beaten over the head with this book joke. It just feels like quick placement.
No, exactly. And I think it is a nice sentimental scene of, well, one, Arizona doesn't know how to handle his kids because he puts the gun in the crib.
Yeah.
But he's a real businessman about everything. But the way he sees that they really cared, where they're like, no, we caught him from Small. We just wanted to do the right thing and return him.
Mm-hmm. I also think that while the situations are different, obviously, I do think Mr. Arizona is capable of seeing himself in High and Ed, where like, because they don't really go into it, but it is assumed that Mrs. Arizona was in Ed's situation. She wanted a baby so bad that they used all this money on what at the time would have been kind of experimental.
It's not assumed. They straight up say that they had been on stuff and they hit the jackpot.
Yeah, but like it the way you have to interpret it is different than like nowadays.
Yeah.
Where like it is expensive nowadays to do fertility treatments, but back in the 80s it would have been even more so.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been nearly as guaranteed success or even as common.
Well, and it's a good heart-to-heart moment where they're like, well, it's over for us, we're splitting. And Arizona's like, you know what? You guys have each other. I mean, there's a reason you're together. Like, it wasn't the kid that brought you together. There was something before all that happened. It's about finding peace with who you're with, basically.
I agree. And I also think that the way that this scene is acted by both Holly and Cage is really well done. Where instead of still feeling like the characters are mad at each other, they just feel defeated. Yeah. And they, like, this is the only thing they can think of to do.
No, exactly. Well, and that's the thing with most of this movie is, up until this point, and until the very end, everyone is having more than they can handle. And that's in regards to everyone. High and Ed think, oh, the baby's gonna fix this. The baby's more than they can handle. Yes. The bank robbery is too much for the friends to handle, because we cut to nighttime and it's peace in the Ed and High's household.
Yep.
Which we see his friends return to prison because it's like, They don't have anything else to do. Like,
And
maybe
also,
prison was probably actually better for them than being on the outside.
And they're like, you know what? I don't think we reformed yet.
No,
I think it's time to go back to prison for us. And they don't even go in the front door. They crawl back through the sewer.
No, exactly. It's that great little bit, because they're the only characters that we care about wrapping up.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do like the way this movie wraps up, because we've learned the audience has been trained at this point that High's dreams are, you can take them as truth.
Yeah.
There's no reason to question or doubt whether or not they are real or will become real, right?
Yeah.
So it is a really nice way to wrap up a what if of having seen them follow Nathan Jr.'s life as he grows up from a distance, you know, cheering him on from the sides.
Living vicariously through them, watching or knowing that Glenn goes to prison because he said one too many Pollock jokes.
Which, I love that. I love that it kind of like rewards the audience for being like, I knew that guy wasn't that great. And then also having this satisfaction of having them not give up on their dream of having a big family and still being together.
Well, it's also showing that High has turned around and that his dream is now aligning with Ed's dream.
I agree.
And he kind of was the problem, but at the same time, Ed was ahead of him and wasn't waiting for him to catch up.
I also think that even though this movie, again, like the dream is all from High's perspective, the whole thing is from High's perspective, and we only really get like side glimpses at Ed, I do think that the dream kind of shows off how Ed was very focused in her pursuit of her goal. And like you said, like she wasn't giving High time to get caught up with her on that dream, even though he was, he was along for the ride. He wasn't saying like, no, I don't want kids. He just was wanting whatever she wanted.
Yeah. And
so I do think that having the dream end with them welcoming home, like having the banner says, welcome home, kids, and having the grandkids doing this silly, like, ring around the rosy dance in the middle of the background for no goddamn reason. While it's silly and while it feels over the topness, the whole thing ending with the maybe not here, maybe in Utah, and then having that like little bit of hope given to them from Mr. Arizona about like, maybe the doctors are wrong. You ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Because it's not something they had considered. Yeah,
and I think it's a good way of putting it, because the actual ending of the movie, it says, if not Arizona, then a land not too far away, where all parents are strong and wise and capable, and all children are happy and beloved. I don't know. Maybe it was Utah. But I like that because it feels... It ends the tone on the movie is that everyone was in the wrong place at the wrong time, basically.
Yes. And I also appreciate how the only two characters who really get their comeuppance are the two characters who really at no point showed any form of humanity or remorse.
No.
We get our guy who's going to sell babies on the black market. We got our asshole who's over here hitting on other people's wives that are not wanted.
Well, not hitting on other wives, trying to be like, hey, you like my wife? She's good. She's good.
And remember, this is his boss.
Yeah. No.
How? No, this is weird and creepy.
No, exactly. It's just, it's one of those ones where it
wraps up so nicely.
Yes.
There's no question about what happens. There's no mystery. There's no loose ends. Again, the Coen Brothers do a wonderful job writing and directing, and this is a very good example of a nicely wrapped up movie.
And after seeing a handful of Coen Brothers movies, like the one that really stuck out with me to really understand, at least for me, how they operate and what their movies are about, or not really about, is at the end of Burn After Reading, where they're like, so, like, Simmons' character drops the envelope. He's like, so what did we learn from all this? And the guys, and the young interview, or the young agent's like, oh, I'm not sure, sir. And then Simmons' response is, not a fucking thing.
Yeah.
And that's like, okay, that's the point of this movie.
Yeah.
There's no point. It's just a story.
It's just a story, yes.
Exactly.
It is very well done. And while I don't think this is Cage's greatest Cage moment, it is a wonderful testament to how well he can act, especially a young Cage.
Yeah.
This is fairly early in his career, and to see him come all the way from Boy in Blue, which was not bad, but there was some lacking. There was some holes to be filled.
Yeah.
In his styling and his ability. This is well done. For a change, I was able to forget this was Nic Cage.
Yeah.
Which is an impressive feat for this man.
I will say he did a lot of serious roles before that too. I mean, just before Raising Arizona, he did Peggy Sue Got Married.
Another good one.
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly
yes, it is good. It is good. I do think that Raising Arizona though shows off his flexibility even better.
Yeah, he's not the young trying to be like charming character in Valley Girl.
And while he is the quote unquote romantic interest in this movie, it is done in such an unconventional way that it really does give, like, I don't even want to say room because they did not give him room, but it is impressive to see someone whose styling and his own personal way of working was able to tame that into fitting with two very difficult to work with directors.
Yeah, and I think part of what makes Raising Arizona stand out so much is that while initially it is easy to write off as a silly plot, the more you start looking at it, it's very much at times a commentary on the social systems and the classic American dream, as well as like poking fun a little bit at psychology in the beginning, just a couple times where it's just like the psychology is dumb of it all. It's just
it is, but also in the same sentence of it all being dumb, because it is dumb and because it is simplistic, it is easy to see how the problem could be solved, and in the same solution is the same solution for a more complicated real world problem.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really brilliant way to get around a comedy film, especially one that is, I know a lot of places qualify this as just comedy or crime comedy, but this really is a romantic comedy in a way.
Yeah.
It's just instead of the end game getting married, the end game is them being happy.
Yeah, no, exactly. And just the baby's the comedy that drives the movie.
Which works because the baby is honestly just a prop baby.
No, exactly. And I think I like what Joel Coen said, is when they asked him what the vital ingredients of Raising Arizona was, his response was that it contains all the essential elements of popular cinema: babies, Harleys, and explosives.
And I think they, in a very classy way, did combine all of those things very well.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just one of those ones where, for me, some of the comedy doesn't hit.
Sure. And it's not my favorite comedy either. No. I would not have watched this on my own if it was not Nic Cage November.
No, exactly. I can see why so many people love it. From a certain era, people who grew up with it.
I honestly can see how some people who are really into the 80s styling are going to re-love this movie. Or watch it for the first time and love it.
Yeah.
It is well done. It is a very good comedy. I'm just picky on my comedies.
No, and I mean, that's fair. I mean, I am too. But it just, I think they did such a good job of really just doing a small story and wrapping it up in a nice, clean package.
I completely agree.
It does make me want to go and watch Blood Simple to see why they were trying to do something so different from it.
And it is very different. I do think you would like Blood Simple.
Okay. I've been told I'd like it. It's just...
I honestly think, while I don't recommend binging the Coen's works, I have seen quite a good number of them. Definitely not all of them. There's too many, and I'm not like you where I will spend all of my afternoon watching one director or one actor.
Yeah.
Partially because their works are so nicely wrapped up and neat that your brain just never has time to rest.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I've never been disappointed with their works.
Yeah.
So, again, pleased with Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been surprised, but I was.
Yeah. So, Chris, on the good, bad, weird scale, how do you rate this movie?
For me, this is a good weird. It has weird elements, but it is all done and portrayed in such a nice and well-rounded way. Everything is well written. Everything is well acted. The set, the costuming, all well done. Character development is really nicely done, but in a weird way.
Yeah. I gotta go with the good weird. There's parts that I find good, but then other parts I just kind of find weird. And granted, it's probably like something like Tarantino where I might not understand the reference or something.
And they definitely pull from a different styling of references than even Tarantino. So yeah, they are a different lexicon to have.
Yeah, no, exactly. So on the Cage scale.
Oh, yes.
Where does this rank for you?
While I think Cage's performance was wonderful, and this movie is good despite me not normally liking this style, and while the Coen Brothers are good, I don't normally like they're not like high on my list of things to own or watch. For me, this is a 5 out of 10 Cages. He did very well. It's very nicely done. there's just not much Cage to it. I could see this being played by another actor pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. I give it a slightly higher Cage rating. It's not Vampire's Kiss level. It's a little bit higher than, like, I guess 5 Cages out of 5. I'd say maybe like a 5.5 too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not fully there. It's a middle of the road line.
Yeah.
Roll.
Again, it's good Cage. It's just not exclusively Cage.
Yeah. And so, 3 Degrees of Takashi Miike. Year 5, decided to do start a game. Here, again, to repeat the rules for people who haven't heard it.
Mm-hmm.
3 degrees to get to Takashi Miike. Has to be a movie connection. Can't use the same connection, i.e. movie actor, writer, director twice this whole season.
Mm-hmm.
As well, I will try to make the plot and plot thematic or tie in as possible as I can.
Sure.
If I win, which we're already at that turning point.
I was gonna say, I've given up hope for my month of Barbie.
We're doing a full month of Takashi Miike next year. This year I went with Randall Tex Cobb in his collision course with Mike Starr, who was in Bushido Blade, with Tetsuro Taba, who was in Happiness of the Katakuri.
Yes, he was.
Directed by Takashi Miike, about a kooky story and an odd family.
I honestly think that's a very nicely tied together one. Good job.
Thank you. So, but anywho, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.